Hello, good afternoon. So I'm going to start today with a short story. When I was 7 years old, my family were living in Tehran, and we had just moved from a very busy part of Tehran to a more secluded neighborhood in the mountains. And being the adventurous pair that we were, my brother and I thought, okay, we're going to go on a hike today with our two massive German shepherds. So we head out of the back gate, and I, being the extremely clumsy human being I am, I completely lose control of Cesar, and of course, she bolts across and goes straight through the neighbor's gate. And my brother and I just look at each other dumbfounded like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? So we, of course, hop along and go over to the neighbor's gate and poke our heads in and don't see anything too crazy, run through the gate trying to capture Cesar, and all of a sudden stop, look up, and realize that it's full of young men. Both look at each other a bit confused. We've never seen these young men out on the street, and what was particularly strange is that a lot of these young men were missing limbs, they were missing fingers, and they were very severely handicapped, moving around on wheelchairs, playing backgammon, drinking tea. My brother and I, again, residential area, what is this? Kind of forget about it very quickly and continue to grab Cesar, who was playing with a man in the corner of the garden. Didn't really think much about it, thought, okay, this is interesting, and continued on our hike. Back home that afternoon, we learned from our mother that these men were veterans of the Iran-Iraq War. And a lot of them had actually been at war when they were just a little bit older than we were. So my brother and I were a little bit confused, thinking like I was 7 and 5, and just really sinking in the fact that some of these men were actually children when they were at war. And that afternoon and the learning after it really heightened a sensitivity in me that what it could mean for a child or someone who's too young to be at war or in a conflict zone. So this experience and a number of other experiences living in Iran and traveling around the world, I kind of heightened my sensitivity to children. And I was very lucky to have parents who were very real with my brother and I about what it means to be a child and how lucky we were to have a safe place to be a kid. So this kind of sparked my philanthropic endeavors, and at the age of 14, I started the first club. It was called Club Hope, helping out people everywhere. Yes, I had a way with acronyms. And I basically got my principal at school to back me on this club, and we were going to raise funds and awareness for children all over the world. So started this club and kind of continued it through high school, and then into university I was the chair for my sorority. I was the philanthropy person, if you will, and we raised several $100,000 while I was running philanthropy at my sorority. But everything kind of changed when I started working. Kind of crashing, screeching halt. And I moved to New York City and was doing the crazy runaround that most people do when they start working. And to be honest, I became this kind of crazy New York City basket case. Like, I was getting up in the morning, going to gym before work, then I was at work all day, and going to events in the evening, and doing all those things that I was supposed to be doing. And I thought, okay, this is what it's like to be a young professional in New York. This is what the feeling is. And for those of you who were in the unfortunate situation to be in competitive sports, it's that feeling you have when you're in a runner's block waiting for someone to shoot a gun so that you can start racing. That was my normal. For those of you who don't know what that feels like, think nauseated plus you're running late to something. And the worst thing that could have happened has happened now on your commute. So I kind of was living this life of madness, nonstop. And I thought it was normal. So, it was one night I woke up after a normal day at the office, and it was the third night in a row that this had happened, and I was in a complete panic. And middle of the night, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. I woke up the next morning after falling back asleep at 6 a.m. and thought to myself, okay, this has to stop. This feeling of unsettledness is not normal, and I have to figure it out. And I stopped and I reflected, and it turned out that something that was extremely important to me, something that I had found purpose in as a child, I had just completely forgotten about. And it had been reduced to a conversation topic with other people who were switched on to world affairs and kind of cared. So I said, okay, what am I going to do now? And I kind of asked myself and really, really thought deeply about these 4 key questions, which is, what actually makes me happy, and what have been the happiest moments in my life? Question number 2, what was I doing in that precise moment? So was I with friends? Was I with family? Was I helping other people? 3, was I actually doing that in my existing life? And finally, was I trying to pressure that sense of fulfillment and happiness out of my life where it was today? As I bottomed out these questions, it occurred to me that there was something big missing. And having read about the Arab Spring and the Syrian civil war kind of in the background, I realized that there was a huge misalignment in what I was thinking about and what I needed to be doing in my actual life. So for many people, this happens, and I think it happens because we get caught up in the runaround of life and don't really stop to think about where we get our purpose and what really fulfills us. And for me, finding that balance again was particularly challenging. Now, at that time, I was moving over to London, and I thought, okay, I need to do something, because where my life stands now, there isn't a lot of balance. And yeah, granted, I have a great professional career that's intellectually stimulating. My family, always an amazing source of inspiration and love. And I have these awesome groups of friends all over the world from having lived many places. But really, the giving piece was nowhere to be found, and it wasn't available to me in the way that I needed it to be. And that was, I was someone with professional skills, and I wanted to give those professional skills, and I wanted to do it for a cause I cared about. So when I arrived in London, I reached out to UNICEF, and I decided to set something up that would enable anyone who's young and working, who feels that this particular cause is one they care about, to be able to give back in whatever way that might look like for them, whether it's giving a bit of money, or whether they want to donate their skills because, I don't know, they're a guru with social media, and they're going to help us raise so much awareness that the whole world is going to be up in arms about what's happening in Syria. So we kind of created this model, and it's grown, and I think that's because a lot of other people were looking for this. So I think the main purpose of my talk to you all today is to really get you to step back and think about what are the moments that you have been the happiest. Why? What were you doing in those moments? And how can you fill your life with more of those things and take pressure off the other parts of your life? So for me, I was hoping to get this sense of fulfillment from my friends. I was looking for it at work, and I was deeply unhappy because, frankly, my corporate job wasn't giving me that humanitarian fulfillment that I needed, but it wasn't supposed to be, right? Like, I was there to learn professional skills and to learn to be a business consultant. So I would encourage you all to think about how you can find those things and not try to force it out of your existing relationships, because you'll end up straining your relationships and you'll end up straining your life, and you will end up unhappy. So I think for me, it's been all about balance, and often people ask me, how do you do it? And that's because I do it by doing things I love and finding balance between the things I love. I'd like to close with one thought from the late and great Dr. Seuss, and that is, step with care and great tact, and remember that life is all a great balancing act. Thank you.